It ultimately comes down to our acceptance of risk as a lender. And I'm a big believer in public blockchains. They're out there, totally unbiased, and the same thing applies here. We could set up 13 nodes ourselves, and just run a blockchain. But our long-term goal is to, as blockchain technology matures, is to continue to build the pieces of loan origination into the smart contract. And if we do that, we're going to need a very robust network, not something we can manage ourselves, nor would I want it to be private. That's not a risk tolerance, I'd be willing to accept, or that HUD or Fannie and Freddie would be willing to accept.
That was Curtis Wood of B Mortgage App talking about blockchain and mortgages. I've been hearing for a while now about mortgages on the blockchain as a use case. I think a lot of crypto people are really foaming at the mouth to issue a mortgage token and ride it to the moon, as they say. But Curtis and his wife, Cynthia, are different. They put it all out there. They risked it all to create this app called B Mortgage App. That's not a blockchain project, but it uses blockchain to streamline and automate the mortgage process. It's kind of like a digital mortgage loan officer right in your pocket. Curtis saw this vision early, and he and Cynthia have a lot to say about hard work, sacrifice to see a vision come to life. It's really interesting. I can't wait for you to hear their amazing story, and you might even cry a little bit on this episode of So What About Crypto?
So what about crypto?
So what about crypto?
I would love for you to check out Multo Marketing and Productions. I am so glad I did. Not only do they sponsor, they actually produce, distribute, and promote this podcast. Multo is a full-service ad agency with a global roster of creative talent to handle any size project. I chose them to produce the upcoming video series we've been shooting because I have to focus completely on the story. They are complete professionals who handled every part of the production. I remember our first day of shooting in Tokyo. I thought, how are we going to get all of this gear and our crew to the different parts of this huge city in those tiny little cabs they have? How are we going to coordinate this? And then, bam. They had this beautiful big van and a driver waiting outside of our hotel, ready to go whenever we wanted. This team did it all. And since they're also a full-service ad agency, they handle all of our social media too. With their partnerships with all the greatest publishers and media outlets in the crypto and blockchain space, they can help you too. Check out Multo Marketing and Productions at multomarketing.com. That's MOLTO marketing.com. All right, let's get to the show. I am very, very excited for you guys to meet the guests that we have on today. And Bill, you've heard me talk about them probably multiple times. I know you have, because we have tried to, in the past, a couple of times, connect with them so that I could shoot a story with them. And for one reason or another, it just never worked out. There were issues on either our end or their end that couldn't work out. But we got you guys today, Curtis and Cynthia Wood with B Mortgage App. And I'm really so excited you guys are here today. I haven't heard an update in so long since I stumbled across you on Twitter. And when I first saw what you guys were doing with blockchain and mortgages, I knew that in a couple of years, when people are ready to deliver actual blockchain services to people, that you guys were going to be one of the first ones out there harnessing this technology. So Curtis and Cynthia Wood, welcome to our humble show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, welcome, guys.
We're excited.
Yeah. And I like your Emmys, Elsa.
Oh, that's all I got, man.
That's two more than I have, so.
Couple of nominations, but I actually was able to snag a few, so thankfully. I'm very thankful for that. So you guys, the backstories with Curtis and Cynthia Wood, if you're on Twitter, You know that there, or you may not know, there's a very big crypto Twitter presence. So when I left television news, I was already really deeply entrenched in Twitter because it's a very good tool for journalists to get breaking news and communicate directly with verified sources. So it was a good, easy transition for me to move over from the sources I was using for work in TV and move over to crypto Twitter and kind of slowly gain my knowledge and base of people that I watched. And B Mortgage app was one of the first ones, excuse me, that I saw about a year and a half ago, would you guys say maybe, that I thought this is going to be something. I noticed at one of the same times with Lolly.
Yeah, so we connected on crypto Twitter, and she actually connected with our co-founder and CMO, Kristen, and they hit it off. And then we just all got together, and Elsa's been in media for the longest time, and we shared our story with her. We're an extremely small project. We bootstrapped for almost 2 years before we had any capital infusion, before we went through a successful raise. But, Elsa's been one of our biggest cheerleaders. She lent her voice, did some very brief voiceover work for us for our raise video. And we had a bunch of people tell us how good quality the video was, and they also commented on her voice. They wanted to know which team member it was. So we had to make her an honorary B team member.
Yeah, I don't think she's accustomed to being on the B team. She's usually, I think, on the A team. But
oh yeah, yeah.
Now I have your. I've just put up your names on our screen here for the stream, and it's bmortgageapp.com, right? I want to make sure I got that right. So, and you guys are an app for mortgage, mobile, sort of like the Rocket Mortgage of blockchain, maybe? It's
more like if you think of Robinhood app for mortgages running on blockchain. Yeah. That's a better characterization of it, because, we've got a generation full of millennials who love apps. 90% of their time spent on their smartphone is spent within an app, and they're buying cars in an app through Carvana. Many car dealerships have an app now. They don't even test drive them. They just download the app, look at it, and buy it.
That blows my mind.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy? I still can't wrap my head around it. But
yeah, I'd never buy a car without test driving it.
Yeah.
But they buy stocks through Robinhood. They bank on Chime. So this generation is an app-driven generation, and so my background is in mortgages, and then before that, I worked for a mobile app development company that did very big white label development for Neiman Marcus, the Home Depot contractor app, Great American Cookie, stuff like that, Moe's Southwest Grill. So this is really just a marriage of what I was doing, for the past 6 years. And Rocket kind of kicked it off, but Rocket didn't really change anything. We know that because the customer complaints are still the same. And we also know that because you didn't see all these other lenders like Wells Fargo, B of A, you didn't see the competitors rush to market with their own mobile app after Rocket Mortgage hit the scene. So it's really more of an advertising campaign. And it's simply because decades of technology is built to be human-centric. It's built and designed for a human loan officer to sit there and manage the data, validate data, clear milestones, so on and so forth. So
intimidate you.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
They don't necessarily want you to have the lowest rate. That's how the LO gets paid. Mm-hmm. And, the lender gets paid on the BIP, so on and so forth. But they'll give you the lowest rate if it means they get your business. But yeah, so what we're doing is, instead of building on current technology, we're taking a holistic approach. We're using blockchain. There is some AI for optical imaging, data analysis, that sort of thing, for like bank statements, stuff like that. And we're putting it all into a mobile mortgage.
So the part that, I know that you're really emphasizing that this is built on blockchain. And so that to me sounds like at some point is there going to have to be like a massive influx of records and data that are added to a blockchain so that this really can work? Or is it just such in the nascent stage that you're really not leveraging it yet?
No, we are leveraging it on 3 different points, and these are 3 simple data points, and they're the core components of the credit approval process, which is the only thing the lender controls. It doesn't control property value, clear title, or taxes. That's up to the county. So when you submit a loan application, they pull your credit, and whatever your credit score is, that's what they have to use. Okay, if it's 720, that's it. There's no gray area though. Same thing with W-2 income and also assets. What they verify in your bank, if you've got 20,000, that's all you have to qualify. So we're simply taking the first blockchain integration is using those 3 data sets and merging them into a larger automation architecture, but having the blockchain validate those 3 data sets. Number one, we can't change them. It's either a yes or a no. And that's what the blockchain is really good at. Blockchain is not yet good at cognitive reasoning, which there's a lot of the various parts of lending, especially with a self-employed borrower, where there are gray areas. But blockchain is just it's either a 1 or a 0, very simple, straightforward code. It's a yes or a no. So that's what we're using blockchain for, is to validate those 3 data sets for. We're going to scale onto it from there, but just automating the credit approval process, this is going to allow us to increase loan production up to 3 times. We'll get our acquisition costs down to around $2,700 per file, whereas the average lender, according to the MBA, sits at around $7,000 to $8,000. So our margins are going to be much higher on that very simple blockchain usage.
Yeah, and so the data does this data that you would be accessing, is it already on a blockchain, or are you just going to the Equifaxes of the world at this point?
More specifically, what we're using is a smart contract, and we're using the data that we're getting in the smart contract to basically self-execute itself. It's either yes or a no to these answers, and if it's a yes on all 3 checkpoints, that smart contract is going to automatically execute on its own.
Yeah, we're still pulling the data, like you said, from the experience of the world. That's we have to. In fact, I was on the front lines as a loan officer whenever blockchain became the buzzword, and there were some crypto projects that were specifically for mortgages, but upon researching them, and they're all dead now. But upon researching them, I very quickly realized they were asking the wrong question. They were building a tech stack around the question of how do we originate a blockchain mortgage? Well, it's not insurable. Fannie and Freddie won't buy it, so there's liquidity problems on your back end. And then number 2, it's not compliant with Dodd-Frank. Instead of asking the question, how do we originate a blockchain mortgage? The right question is, how do we originate a qualified mortgage using blockchain? And a qualified mortgage is one that Fannie and Freddie will buy, that's insurable by HUD, and that there's trillions of dollars in liquidity for to buy up. And they go into all our bonds, our teachers' pensions, so on and so forth. So that was our starting point. And like, she said, and like you said, we're taking the data, it's sourced directly from your bank account through approved vendors. Your credit score still comes from Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and then just, like she said, just putting it through a smart contract to either clear and move on to the next step, or stop and flag and get routed to a live MLO for a manual review.
Hey guys, I'm sorry for the interruption of my internet, but I think we've tackled the problem and I'm back. So I'm sorry I missed a little bit of the conversation here, but I heard you kind of allude to something that I've heard maybe from a little bit from other blockchain companies, Curtis, in that maybe at some point in the future, right now, blockchain is a big buzzword and, people are talking about it and they're, finding out about it. But maybe in a couple of years, we're not going to refer to companies anymore as blockchain companies. Is that the sentiment you're getting? Because that's kind of what I'm getting from some of the other companies too that are building products on blockchain. And why is that?
For the same reason you don't say the internet. Like if you don't market yourself as an internet company anymore, it's just everybody assumes you have a website, but anytime you have a technological leap and, in America, it's a free market. We go through these periods of technological leaps, and the internet was the last one. So very early on, you saw all these companies flood. We're an internet company, and I mean massive IPOs, and it was a bubble. There was somewhat of a blockchain bubble, although the companies were not public. We saw this represented within the ICO space. Okay, but no, our MVP is live right now. Our app, which is a home buying app, helps you pick out a payment. Okay, it's not a mortgage app. It gives you a debt to income calculation. It uses lender grade data. That's live right now, and blockchain is not mentioned once on it. And it's quite frankly, people don't care about blockchain. They care about the user experience. They want instant access to mortgage products. If blockchain helps them get there, or a carrier pigeon.
So then is that to say that the reason you would even mention that you're doing this on blockchain is that, in my mind, it seems like it's just a path to making the mortgage process exceptionally efficient and fast in more and more in the future.
It is, but blockchain is directly associated with crypto, and we are not a cryptocurrency company. Right now, technically, we're a software company, but when the mortgage app is built, we're going to get our license in Florida, and we will be a direct mobile lender. We kind of want crypto got a bad rap. Let's admit it.
Right. I was just going to say, people don't want the connection?
Yeah, a lot of people will hear blockchain in your pitch, and they're totally turned off by it. They don't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
So is blockchain still?
It's in one sentence on our deck.
Yeah.
It's also on your website, though.
And it's in one page on our website. Yeah.
So, we have it on there because it's true, but
it just got a bad rap early on.
Bad rap. And that's why a lot of the times when he talks about blockchain, I want to be more specific and say it's smart contracts that we're using.
Yeah. For the smart people, it's just data validation.
Right.
They for the savvy investors who did invest with us, our 3 lead investors, they didn't even ask us. It didn't turn them off. They were prone to blockchain. But early on, I actually got feedback. We cold emailed the deck out just to every VC we could find, and we got some feedback from some people, and they were turned off with it. Now, granted, this is right at after the ICO boom, so some of these ICO and crypto projects that had all the hype in the world, they were starting to fizzle out.
Right, and people got scammed. Let's face it, it's no different than, people getting scammed in the stock market when people hype up a big stock and people pour in and then it gets pumped and dumped, right? It's something similar. So, people are, I've seen it. I know you guys have seen it. They're going to have a hard time separating the true, the genuine nature of blockchain and crypto versus all the scams they heard about in mainstream media over the last couple of years. And it's true. People were scammed. Wherever there's money, there are going to be scams.
Well, I'll tell you this. This too happened with early internet stocks. That a majority of those are just out of business. If you take into account 90% of Silicon Valley, the best backed companies in the world, 90% of those fail. That kind of puts some context around it. But we when we entered the space, we did an equity crowdfunding. And if you look back on it, yes, there are scams, but the people, the companies with legit ideas, a good team, and staying power, they stick around. Not every company out of the early internet boom is gone. Amazon's still here. Right. There's a handful of others, so we did our fundraising, not through an ICO, but through an equity crowdfund. We have a duty to our shareholders, to the SEC. They own equity in our company. So I tell you, if we had to do it again, we would not have in any way positioned ourselves as a crypto company. Number one, because we're not, but then just number two, because we took some hits just being associated with it, and we don't have a crypto,
But you also used Fundopolis for your crowdfund, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they have somewhat of a crypto association, even though they don't always fund crypto projects, but
their back end runs on blockchain, I believe.
Yeah, so we can't speak on specifics for them, okay? But it is an equity crowdfund. My understanding of it is that the shares are recorded in some way on blockchain. It is not a token. It's not an STO. It is a bona fide SEC approved equity crowd fund, just like WeFunder, Start Engine. And we were their biggest raise. It was the first time we raised capital. Our pre-seed round, $5.3 million post money. And we're thankful for them. We got lucky. We got rejected by Start Engine. You know, a bunch of people turned us down. They took a chance on us. We got out there, Cynthia and I both. We've taken more meetings, done more dinners with investors, and we hustled and got it done. There's been no easy day, but there's no excuses, you know.
Right. I think, you know, you said from the internet days that, you know, there were scams back then too, and the cream always rises to the top. So that's what we're going to see here, and that's what we're seeing here, and hopefully that's what Bill and I are trying to do initially with the show that we were shooting. Now we can't travel anywhere at the moment, but at least now through the podcast is to show people that the cream is starting to rise to the top. And this isn't something to be intimidated by, but maybe hopeful about in this technology. So, you know, we're trying to, yes, acknowledge the people who were hurt and scammed and everything else in the early days of this, but now we're seeing real world products like yours. And so we're trying to make that connection for people that you're right. In a few years, nobody's going to care if it's blockchain or not. It just is. Like the internet just is. But I do like people to understand why it's important that the technology is used in this way. So we can start clearing out some of the stuff that had happened in the past and move forward with finding out some of these products can actually really help us more than probably anything we've seen in the past as a society.
We were saying there has been a lot of scams. And I think most of those have kind of fallen by the wayside at this point. It's been a couple of years now, and we've seen them all come and go. And those of us that are still here, that are still working, are the legit ones. And like Curtis said, we have an app that's out. We're still working. We're still building. We got a lot of slack, you know, in the beginning for being blockchain when it was buzzy, but we're still here. We're still working. And I think most of us, we've seen the ones that were scams fall away. And those of us that are still here are the ones that end up making it.
We released a live app, and we're actually in revenue on less than 200 grand. Now, primarily because of Cynthia and the rest of our team. I'm our weakest link. So our team, Matt Offers, Kristen, Holly, Jeremy, Cynthia, they kicked ass. Just totally. I mean, we did a majority of the work ourselves. We did have software engineers come in to do the hardcore coding work. Cynthia did some of the coding at some point, but you have some projects who've raised millions of dollars. They haven't even released a product yet.
Yeah,
right.
We raised 300. We have over 100 grand in the bank, and we have a live product and have a major bank partnership with Florida Capital Bank. They're our customer. So the cream is here. It's already at the top. Some of the other companies, they're just dead. They're stagnant.
Right. I mean, I don't know if I missed this in the few minutes that I lost my internet connection with you guys, but if Bill covered this, I apologize. But what made you guys make the transition to this space? Because everybody always has a story, right? Everybody has a story of how they ended up here. We're all here.
Well, when Curtis came home and told me that he quit his job, his mortgage job, and there was no conversation about it. But I'll let you tell the story. It really started with Curtis and his mortgage experience and what he was seeing on the front lines. And
do you want to hear the story about how our car broke down and then somebody stole my bike? So we were walking to the grocery store for 8 kids every day, and I was walking a mile to You want to hear that one, or do you want to hear like the story of the car getting repoed?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to hear about when she kicked you out of the house.
Yeah,
when you came.
What's the story about when she kicked you out of the house for quitting your job?
Yeah, when he quit his cush mortgage job and came home and told me that we were going to do this and blockchain was going to change the world. So, I think he actually, didn't you tweet a copy of the letter that you wrote to your boss? Yeah,
so there's, when I read some research by Price Waterhouse, Moody's, NASDAQ, some very reputable analytics, firms, whatever you call them. And it talked about the benefits of blockchain for the mortgage industry. And I was on the front lines as a loan officer. And the one by PwC is very good. It nails it on the head like 95%. But the problem is, while analysts could appreciate the benefits of blockchain, it takes somebody with mortgage experience to know how to actually hook it up. Okay. So that was my light bulb moment. I mean, that was the one, because it absolutely replaces the need for a human loan officer or processor to review, validate, or clear data. So if I am no longer needed as a loan officer, we have the base technology, the foundational technology for a real mobile mortgage. And about a year prior to that moment, the entire industry had held their breath as Quicken rolled out Rocket Mortgage. And everybody thought it was going to be a mobile mortgage. It wasn't. It was simply a digital loan application. And that's really the difference between what Rocket is and what we're doing. We're building a virtual loan officer, whereas Rocket Mortgage is simply a digital loan application. You submit, you complete the 1003 on the app. We're building a virtual loan officer that's going to run exactly the way a human loan officer does. And I'm not a tech guy. I don't code. I couldn't code to save my life. Cynthia has to connect me to Wi-Fi.
That would be Wi-Fi.
But I also
by the way, honey, it's Wi-Fi. She had that look on her face like,
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I said that for her.
Yeah, he does it on purpose.
I'm also not an electrician, but I understand how light works. And that was the same when I saw blockchain. I just instantly got it. And
he wrote this really nice resignation letter to his boss. I think he tweeted it a couple years ago, and it's very nice and wonderful. And he came home and told me what we were going to do. And we, years later, and all of our savings dumped into this app, and lots of trials. And
when she released her hands from my neck and I regained consciousness, we both thought it was a really good idea.
but
now.
Well, yes, but it was no easy road, obviously, because I want to hear some of the other stories too. But you guys have encountered a lot of other people in this space who had that aha moment, right? And that was the day that it all changed suddenly. I had that very same experience. You guys, there's so many people. That story in and of itself is not unique anymore, at least in this space, because all of us have had that moment where we instantly saw it and said, man, I got to do this.
And I think the biggest difference is there's a lot of people that have these great ideas like he did with B. It's like fun, and you're like, oh, this is going to be such an adventure, and you're going to do it. You're going to put in the hard work. And then when it starts to get really hard, like your car repossessed hard and your lights getting shut off hard, like that's when people usually just give up and, go back to your 9 to 5. And so we really had to bust ass.
We put ourselves in a position to where there was no turning back. And we knew that, number one, it wasn't going to be easy, but if we had an off ramp, or if we were just doing this part-time, we weren't going to see the results we wanted. And the grind knows how much work you've put into it. The only easy day was yesterday, so bring on tomorrow. That's really our mantra. And that's from David Goggins, ex-Navy SEAL. Guys,
yes,
incredible.
I read the book.
There's no excuses. The only excuse is you stopping. I could go back to the bank. I could pretty much go to any mortgage company I wanted to and still can. But we wouldn't be here without it. And honestly, our goal is to take the company public. We like the idea of, the stakeholder capitalism, which means that you leave this place a little better than you found it, along with going public through a big IPO and us moving to some island somewhere. But that's the whole idea is, just to make home ownership a little more affordable. And I'm hearing Elsa's voice at the beginning of our video.
Oh, that's so you got, yes. Oh, okay. So that's how, but this is why I love this relationship and Twitter and how we connected, because we all had the aha moment, But then when I saw what you guys were doing, I knew in my heart, I knew right away, even though I didn't know very much about this space, I just had that same feeling I did when the day I learned about blockchain and Bitcoin and everything associated with it. That same day, I had that same feeling. I knew you guys were going to do it. So I wanted to, I stuck on you because I really wanted to see where you guys went. I mean, truly following a story from beginning to end. Well, there is no end, but from beginning and on. And, I was really honored that you guys asked to have my voice in your videos. So that was a big honor because I really believed in you guys and I wanted to see what you did. So yeah, that is me. Just promise me one day you'll invite us to the island so we can shoot a story with you guys and, see how you guys are doing 10 years from now. But the road is not easy. I share some of that and some of those struggles with you too. I left, as you guys know, I left TV news, kind of a cush job, and I've been doing it for over 20 years and said I got to leave and focus parlaying my, at least what talents I have, and use that in covering this space. Curtis, you did the same thing. You used your talents in the mortgage business and moved it over to this space. And, there's a lot of struggle that comes along with it. I'm sure you heard from family. What are you doing? What do you mean Curtis quit his job? What do you mean? You guys have kids to feed. You guys have a mortgage. You guys have I do too. And it's been 2 years. I'm still hearing it. So I'm sure along the way, I know it hasn't been easy. But in the end, people think, they see you and they think it was easy. I mean, what were some of the toughest times for you guys leading up to this point? Because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel right now.
Nothing of any significance is earned easily. Just life rewards hard work. No matter what the sacrifice is for, life rewards hard work. So I'll let you answer your question.
We've been through a lot. I mean, because it took us, how long was it before we started and ended our fundraise from when we started in the beginning? It was like a year.
So a year and a half before we had our first capital infusion.
So we went a year and a half with zero funding, which means we went through our savings quickly.
I met with
100% of our savings.
I met with an angel investor in Marco Island. We agreed on a price.
Oh, yeah.
And the day, this was $100,000.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of money.
And it was huge for us.
It was right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And the day before we were supposed to sign the deal, he axed the valuation by 70%.
Yeah.
And Cynthia and I had a choice to make. And we both agreed.
People listening can't see that. So, just agreed no.
Well, they'll be able to see the live stream. We attach, give people the options to see the live stream, just FYI. So don't, blow your nose, pick your nose, anything like that, because they will be able to see it.
We were green, and we just thought there'll be somebody else behind him. No worries. We're not going to drop the valuation that much.
There wasn't for another year.
And there wasn't anybody after it for another year.
I think I got a better story. So I resigned in May of 2018, and I had taken 3 months off prior to that. I was out on FMLA with my son. So I resigned. I got back to work, and in May, I resigned. Cynthia and I had been at this house for years. And a month after I resigned, we got a letter from the management company saying that the owner hasn't paid his mortgage
in like a year or something.
A long time.
You have 30 days to move out.
You have 30 days to move out. So very, very early on.
So wait, they'd been taking your rent that you're paying them, but they're not paying the mortgage. We saw that happen during the bubble, the mortgage crisis in 2008. There were people on my parents' street that were doing the same thing. They brought in a renter knowing that they weren't going to pay the mortgage, but they were going to take the money from the renter. And the renter all of a sudden gets a sheriff's deputy at the door saying, you got to get out.
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Very early on, we had to decide, are we going to stick this out or not? And we stuck it out. And
it's just many stories just like that.
Many stories.
Just all over these things.
Yeah. But the walking to the grocery store every day is...
That was bad.
You said for 8 kids?
Yeah.
There's 8
you guys
between
have
the
8
two of
kids?
us.
Yeah.
We have 5 that live in our house and then 3 that rotate every other weekends and stuff. So we're like the Brady Bunch.
Oh my.
So were you pushing the shopping cart down the street?
No. Well, our neighborhood was right across the street from our kids' school. So I was walking our kids to and from school every day. And we were lucky that there was a Publix right on the corner from our house. So he was riding his bike to Publix for a few months.
And then my bike got stolen.
And then our bike got stolen.
Dude. Oh my God.
We're okay now. We have 2 vehicles now and we're okay. But it was a really rough period of time. So after the bike was stolen, he was walking with like Publix bags.
We haven't told anybody these stories. Number one, our race is
now
closed.
we're going to Publix. So.
Honestly, this is embarrassing.
Oh,
but
no,
our race is closed. We've already got the money, so they can't take it back.
I'm so glad you guys are smiling and laughing about it now, and you should, because I've shed a lot of tears during this journey too. It hasn't been easy. It's been rough on my kids too, and my family, and you know, you guys know the stories too.
And me.
And and Billy. But yeah, because he had to hear my cries. But you guys, you should be proud of these stories, because ultimately what this all meant is that you guys stuck it out and you became, which appears to me, stronger as a couple and stronger as a family. And now you guys can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're crawling out, and that's the important part. You know, our parents always teach us that you got to stand up and dust yourself off and keep going.
See, honestly, it's been a great, I mean, it was tough. Don't get me wrong, but we have 2 14-year-olds, a boy and a girl, and they've watched us go through this. They're like old enough to know what's going on and that we were really struggling. And our kids really have gotten a lot from it. They tell us all the time how proud of us they are.
Yeah.
They knew that we came from this small house and no car, and they see where we are now and everything's okay now. And they tell us all the time that they're like proud of us for our hard work. They think it's super cool. So it's been good. And it's been a good experience for all of us, especially our kids, to see you can work your way up, that you'll get through it if you just work hard. So it's been a good experience. I'm glad we're out of the tough parts. But it's been a good experience for everybody.
The best text I ever got from my daughter.
He's going to cry.
I was just going to say, if my kids told me, when they say things like, "Oh, mommy, I love you," and "Mommy, I'm so proud of you," I would just roll up in a fetal position crying.
So my daughter sent me a text, and it was just timed right, and it's the only one she's ever sent me. But it was like, "I'm so proud of you." Oh.
It was just a very long, touching text.
Let me switch cameras. I'll switch it back to Elsa.
How proud she was of him. This is worked, and so it was just really sweet. And it's cool that our kids got to kind of go through it with us and see it.
Well, you know, I just feel like, you know, it helps build character for them too, and see, you know, you worry about, and I get those same feelings too. You stress and the anxiety of having the kids feel the insecurity at the time, and you wonder how that's going to affect them. And it's hard. You feel terrible and you feel guilty, but when they do that, you know, you just burst into tears and realize it really was all worth it. And now forever, they're going to be proud of you guys.
Yeah.
Especially when they're living on that island.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
They better have jobs.
Yeah. We always tell them, like, you guys got to work too.
Yeah. We've worked our way up from the bottom with this. There's no free lunch.
Yeah.
Right.
So real quick, I've got, you know, being the geek of the bunch over here, back to your project for a second. So you're using your blockchain part with a smart contract on like what blockchain, like what platform are you on?
I think
For
we
the
decided
smart contract.
we were going back between either Stellar and Ethereum, and the developers that we're using, I think, are leaning more towards Ethereum right now.
Yeah, we have the first build, the first 5 sprints don't have any blockchain build in them. It's all just legacy
Data onboarding.
applications. After that, we're starting to build on the smart contract part. And we were big Ethereum fans, but Casper was being rolled out, and then Ethereum 2. Stellar is already fast. It's very robust. And that's what we don't have to make a decision right now, but I mean, if we had to.
Well, I think the way you've described it and just now kind of strikes me as it doesn't really matter as long as it works, sort of thing. Like you said, you didn't build blockchain into your platform. It's just it's kind of like an oracle to your platform, right?
Yeah,
correct.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. On the first blockchain implementation, 99% of it is still legacy coding.
I'll say 95.
95?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 5% of it is going to be that smart contract portion.
Yeah. And then
and that's on the first build.
When do you think you'll be on?
We are not at a place right now where blockchain is mature enough to.
Yeah, and there's not only that, we couldn't originate mortgage, even if it was compliant with Dodd-Frank. We couldn't stick it in a smart contract now as it is. The technology is not advanced enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're utilizing current technology that works really well, and all we're simply doing is replacing the human data validation step with a smart contract.
Which is your loan officer. So basically what you used to do, we're replacing the loan officer with a smart contract right now.
Yes. So that makes me ask the question, because this is a show called So What About Crypto? Why not? I mean, do you even have to have blockchain for any of that?
For the smart contract.
For the smart contract,
because
yes.
They're self-executing.
Yeah.
The terms of either yes or no are already built into the contract. For smart contracts, yes, that aspect.
It ultimately comes down to our acceptance of risk as a lender. And I'm a big believer in public blockchains. They're out there, totally unbiased. And the same thing applies here. We could set up, 13 nodes ourselves, and just run a blockchain. But our long-term goal is to, as blockchain technology matures, is to continue to build the pieces of loan origination into the smart contract. And if we do that, we're going to need a very robust network, not something we can manage ourselves, nor would I want it to be private. That's not a risk tolerance, I'd be willing to accept, or that HUD or Fannie and Freddie would be willing to accept.
Public. To be public.
Yeah, public. Yeah.
So speaking of that,
sounds like a smart approach for sure.
But speaking of those companies, what do you think the future is like for those companies now that you're doing what you're doing and they're continuing kind of along the same way they've always operated?
What's the future of Fannie and Freddie?
Yeah.
Or I guess any mortgage company?
Or any mortgage, any company that's dealing in the way that it's always been done versus what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, so
with humans.
You have decades of technology that current lenders use to originate a loan. Decades of technology is built for a human being to manage the data, validate it, and clear it. That's all they do. So, in that aspect, number one, the reason why we don't have a mobile mortgage is because lenders don't trust a computer program to do a human's job. They could automate all of loan origination if they wanted to, but they don't, because they don't trust it because of the risk, profile of mortgage lending. And you also need a human being with an MLO license to quote a rate or negotiate loan terms. I mean, there's some hardcore regulations in place. The future, lenders right now are pushing for a repeal of Dodd-Frank. And as big of a free markets guy as I am, I think that's the wrong approach. Dodd-Frank did a lot of good. It did a lot of bad, but it did a lot of good in rooting out some of the crap, the subprime loans. It stiffened the penalties for mortgage fraud, $1 million fine, 30 years in prison. And you saw at the peak in 2007, subprime loans made up about 20% of all mortgages. Now that's less than 10. So it also did away with stated loans. So it did a lot of good. But Are you going, babe?
Yes, I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
That's okay. Fannie and Freddie have to adopt new technology. They're getting a lot of pressure from mortgage lenders themselves to either allow new technology like e-notaries. Coronavirus has opened up a lot of opportunities for e-notes, remote closings, that sort of thing. It's not going to go away. HUD initially said, we'll do this for 90 days. They extended it. They're going to extend it indefinitely at this point. But Fannie and Freddie are going to have to adopt new technology. They're going to be forced to. It's either that or repeal Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank's not going anywhere. So we're in a good position to build our tech, demo it, and we have a technology partner with Florida Capital Bank. They're our testing partner. And then at that point, integrate some of these new tech applications directly with HUD and Fannie and Freddie.
Well, you guys, I can't thank you enough, first of all, for being with us today, because as much as I want people to learn about your product and we want people to see the real world applications that are happening, I really love to hear the stories behind how you got there. And for you and Cynthia, who, by the way, you're not seeing Cynthia because she had to do a hard stop. They are running a company and trying to build a company, so she has something else to do right now. Yeah. But I really, a lot of times people don't know what it takes and the sacrifices that are made and the things that you guys have to go through to get to this point. So that maybe brings a deeper appreciation for the things that you have brought to the public for them to use. And hopefully they make that kind of emotional connection with you guys to see that this has been pure hard work and it's not done in the same way that we typically see things done on Wall Street and in business. And that's the point. Yeah.
Technology always wins. It really does. You can't stop disruption, just like crypto. You can't stop crypto. You can't stop Bitcoin, that sort of thing. But we submit our iOS app to Apple for review. Hopefully they don't take months to review it. And wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't plug the app. If you're a new home buyer, go download it. It's free. Helps you pick out your payment. We use lender grade data. And we also launch an iHeartRadio campaign in the Central Florida market as soon as iOS is live. So let's hope some new home buyers download it.
Yeah. Bill and I, Bill always makes sure that all the information is in the show notes. So when people download the podcast or come to the website, they can see all of that stuff in the text, the app, all the information that you want them to have. It'll be there along with the podcast as well.
Thank you.
And so right now it's on Google only, Google Play Store, I guess it's what it's called, the App Store for them. And then you're only sort of licensed in Florida at this point.
No, we're not a lender, so there's no licensing requirements right now. The only thing that we do is a debt to income calculation. So you answer some very simple questions, and it's specifically for new home buyers. Also, I'm sure you bought a home, you too, Bill. If you hit the market, you would know what price range you would want to look in. So what we're doing is we're targeting the App 11 millennial generation, who is this year the largest home buying segment for the first time, and that's only going to grow. And again, it's free. You plug in your income, the zip code you're looking in, how much money you have to buy the home with, and it spits out your payment, your estimated payment, along with the purchase price. And you get to pick out whatever payment and purchase price you like, and then you start looking at homes. And the idea is that it's a starting point. It's not a replacement for a pre-approval. It's simply a starting point of where you need to start looking if you're a new home buyer.
That saves a lot of work, though. Most definitely. Well, we'll have all the information for everybody to check it out themselves, along with the podcast. Please tell Cynthia, thank you so much for being with us today on So What About Crypto. I finally get to see you guys in person. I've talked to you on the phone. We've communicated on Twitter, via email, but this is the first time we've actually sort of seen each other face to face. So I'm really glad you guys were able to join us today and share all those stories. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
What a story, right? I think most people would have just given up, especially with 8 kids. Crazy. Hey, everybody. It turns out that the best way you can help us keep doing this is really simple. Leave us a review, and then all those podcast algos will show us to more people. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it. I think we'll be on Amazon's new podcast platform soon as well. Plus, that'll help us know how we're doing. Hit us up at info@adventuresincrypto.tv, or you can always find me on Twitter at Elsa Ramon on Air and on LinkedIn at Elsa Ramon. I want to thank Malto Marketing and Productions for sponsoring and producing the show. Their team is located around the world, literally, but you can find them at moltomarketing.com. That's MOLTO marketing.com. I'm Elsa. Thanks, everybody, for coming along. This is a live Q&A discussion about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, tokens, projects, investments, and technology. All discussions are strictly the opinions of each speaker. Statements made by guests are not necessarily the opinion of the host and producers. Investments in Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, tokens, and even stocks are speculative and risky. The information contained herein is for informational purposes only. We are not financial advisors nor registered investment advisors, and all of our content is intended for general information purposes. You must do your own due diligence before investing in anything, especially anything related to cryptocurrencies and tokens. Investments always carry risk. Never risk more of anything than you're willing to lose.
So what about crypto?